Hello and welcome to another edition of Michigan Conservative Roundtable. Today we're going to talk about the attack on white men, particularly older white men, that's going on in this country. If you've been paying attention at all, you're aware of this. And we're going to give you some examples today. I'm going to start off with Don Lemon's comment. We have to stop demonizing people and realize the biggest terror threat in this country is white men. Most of them radicalized to the right, and we have to start doing something about them. So in this sentence, I take issue with a few things. First off, all white people are something, or all white men are something, and the fact that we've been radicalized. How have we been radicalized, and by whom? And the second point I take issue with, and this is common among these type comments, to do something about them. What is it they want to do about us?
Well, you were mentioning Don Lemon, how we need to stop demonizing people, and then he commences demonizing people.
Yeah.
So, or are we not people?
That's the core of genocides, actually.
Are we not the right kind of people?
Well, that seems to be clear.
All right.
Okay, so we can move on to a comment made by Stephen Clifford, the former King Broadcasting CEO, who said, "I will be leading a great movement to prohibit straight white males," which would indicate to me that gay males are okay.
Well, I guess he has it against you and me, since we're both married to women.
And who I believe supported Donald Trump about 85% from exercising the vote. And I think that to save our democracy, that's what he needs. He needs to prohibit us. So we have prohibiting. We've had doing something about us thus far. Teen Vogue magazine is which targets teenage girls, says not only is the white male terrorism as dangerous as Islamic extremism, but our collective safety rests in rooting out the source of their radicalization. What do you think that might mean?
Well, they're comparing old white men to Islamic terrorists, is how I read it.
Well, you remember the last time all those older white guys flew planes into buildings and killed 3,000 people?
Oh, yeah.
And it was those old white guys that drove a boat into the side of the USS Cole. Okay? Now, I know some out there will say, well, it was a white guy who blew up the building in Oklahoma. Yeah, because he was a cowardly maniac. That's for sure.
I'll play devil's advocate. A lot of the mass shootings appear to be white males. Mm-hmm. However, you take this last one that occurred a few weeks back. He was a Trump hater.
Yeah.
So don't, you're painting with too broad a brush there.
I was going to mention, in almost every time in these mass shootings, they're a leftist. Okay, so we move on to economist Paul Krugman of the New York Times, fine establishment that is. And he says, the angry white male caucus, in which he explains Trumpism. Do you remember hearing about Obamaism or Clintonism? I don't remember that. That Trumpism is all about the fear of losing traditional privilege. Well, I don't know what privilege that is.
Well, it's unfortunate that he would compare constitutional rights to privilege. And he uses the word privilege, and I'll tell you something, a pet peeve, slightly off topic, but it's a pet peeve, and I've heard it used too many times for my liking. When someone is being questioned in front of the Congress, House, or Senate, and they have said, I like to incorporate my Fifth Amendment privilege. And I always hated when they said Fifth Amendment privilege. It's a Fifth Amendment right, not a privilege. And I almost feel like by using the word privilege, you're sliding into the losing traditional privileges. I feel like they're trying to equate the Bill of Rights, First 10 Amendments, to privileges. It touches on a sore spot.
It does with me as well, because privileges are given and therefore can be taken away. Rights are what we have and they cannot be taken away, per the Constitution. So we move on to James Livingston, a Rutgers university history professor, okay, officially I now hate white people. I hereby resign from my race. F these people. And then we go on to Stacy Patton, a Morgan State University professor. See any pattern here? There is nothing more dangerous in the United States than a white man who is expected to succeed and finds himself falling behind. Well, isn't that true of anyone? Really? Someone who expected something and didn't get it, well, like Mrs. Clinton, who thought she was entitled to the presidency, no less.
Yeah, really.
White man's, in Stony Brook University sociology professor Michael Kimmel explained, white men's anger comes from the potent fusion of two sentiments, entitlement and a sense of victimization. I almost laughed when I read that. The whole Democratic Party is based on people being victims. They promote victimhood, they encourage victimhood, they want everyone to be a victim. It's a badge of honor today among the youth to be a victim.
And there's obviously a trend here. We're discussing a race issue here, and I would just tell you what I've come to, where I've kind of found myself now on this is you engage people of a different ethnicity, and they will have a chip on their shoulder, okay, and perhaps they have been wronged by someone in the past, but until they incorporate a little forgiveness and dispense with the chip on their shoulder, where can I start? Because certainly I haven't wronged you, so something's got to happen with that chip on the shoulder first, you know?
Forgiveness can only come from the person who's been offended or had this grievance against them. It can only start there, and until that happens, you're right, we go nowhere. So we move on to, ironically, Senator Bernie Sanders, an old white man, really old white man. There's no question in Georgia and Florida, racism has reared its ugly head. They ran against Andrew Gillum and Stacey Abrams, and those who did were racist. Why were they racist? Because they ran against them? They didn't just bow down to them? Or because they had the audacity, Obama wrote a book, Audacity to Hope. Well, they had the audacity to be elected.
You bring up two scenarios because they're in the last election, Florida and Georgia, and until you have a grasp of reality, and we've talked about reality before in previous videos. Clearly, that statement indicates that they have not come to terms with reality. In both Florida and Georgia that we're referencing here, they're saying up and down, and just like Hillary, how it was stolen. And you know something? The more you beat the drum of it was stolen, when in fact it was not stolen, and we've talked before about, we've mentioned another civil war. If people honestly feel in their heart that an election has been stolen, then there's only one path. There's only one direction on that particular path. So you gotta accept reality. And next. Okay.
So we have an actress I've never heard of. Perhaps you have. And I'm going to probably slaughter her name here. Gabourey Sidibe. And she was on The View. And she said, older white men are a problem, y'all, for everyone. We are all at risk. All at risk. How are they at risk? I wish someone would tell me this. Old white men are out just slaughtering people, doing everything they can to keep other people oppressed. Moira Donegan wrote an article for The Guardian called "Half of White Women Continue to Vote Republican. What's Wrong with Them?"
Well, if you remember last time, they were saying how, Hillary said it, that some of the white women were giving in to their husbands, their sons, and other family members, white male family members, that were basically coercing them. I felt that was the message.
Well, women clearly cannot make their own choices. So they're always pro-choice unless it's that choice. And then it's a problem. Then they want to know what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to Renee Graham, who wrote a column in the Boston Globe that counseled memo to black men, stop voting Republican. They too clearly don't have a choice. What's wrong with black men? Damn them, thinking for themselves. And so-called comedian, and I say so-called because I haven't heard a thing she said that's funny, Chelsea Handler tweeted, just a friendly reminder for the weekend. No wait after Labor Day, and that's a fashion statement. Just a friendly reminder this weekend, no white after Labor Day, and no old white racist men after the midterms. Get out and vote. You remember Oprah's said racism will die when old white people die. Because there are no black racists, and we all know they can't be racist. I'd like to know who made that rule, and so on and so forth. And I'm gonna finish up. Unless you have something to add here?
I'm talking.
I'm gonna finish up with where I think all of this could eventually lead, and it's a comment by Professor George Ciccarello Marr from Drexel University. Professor Marr said, "All I want for Christmas," he tweeted this out, "all I want for Christmas is a white genocide." No, this is a white man also. So for white guys in this country, in America, where do we go? What do we do? Should we all kill ourselves?
Well, that would be fine with them.
Oh, I think it would. So we're going to wrap this up. I hope we've tuned you in when you hear these kind of comments, what may be on the road. So as we like to say on the Michigan Conservative Roundtable, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.